Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. On May 13, 1846, the U.S. Congress overwhelmingly votes in favor of President James K. Polk's request to declare war on Mexico in a dispute over Texas. Under the threat of war, the United States had refrained from annexing Texas after the latter won independence from Mexico in 1836. But in 1844, President John Tyler restarted negotiations with the Republic of Texas, culminating with a treaty of annexation. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. The treaty was defeated by a wide margin in the Senate because it would upset the slave state-free state balance between North and South and risked war with Mexico, which had broken off relations with the United States. But shortly before leaving office and with the support of President-elect Polk, Tyler managed to get the joint resolution passed on March 1, 1845. Texas was admitted to the Union on December 29. While Mexico didn't follow through with its threat to declare war, relations between the two nations remained tense over border disputes, and in July 1845, President Polk ordered troops into disputed lands that lay between the Nueces and Rio Grande rivers. In November, Polk sent the diplomat John Slidell to Mexico to seek boundary adjustments in return for the U.S. government's settlement of the claims of U.S. citizens against Mexico and also to make an offer to purchase California and New Mexico. After the mission failed, the U.S. Army under General Zachary Taylor advanced to the mouth of the Rio Grande, the river that the state of Texas claimed as its southern boundary. Mexico, claiming that the boundary was the Nueces River to the northeast of the Rio Grande, considered the advance of Taylor's army an act of aggression and in April 1846 sent troops across the Rio Grande. Polk, in turn, declared the Mexican advance to be an invasion of U.S. soil, and on May 11, 1846, asked Congress to declare war on Mexico, which it did 2 days later. After nearly 2 years of fighting, peace was established by the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, signed on February 2, 1848. Texas was admitted to the Union on December 29. In return, the United States paid Mexico the sum of $15 million and agreed to settle all claims of U.S. citizens against Mexico. In the spring of 1846, the United States stood at a crossroads of ambition and conflict. Just a year earlier, the U.S. had annexed the Republic of Texas, a bold move that infuriated Mexico, which still considered Texas its rightful territory despite its 1836 independence. The border between Texas and Mexico was hotly contested. Mexico claimed the Nueces River as the boundary, while the United States insisted it was the Rio Grande. President James K. Polk, a firm believer in manifest destiny, the idea that the U.S. was destined to expand across the continent, was determined to enforce American claims. To assert control, Polk ordered General Zachary Taylor and his troops to move into the disputed area between the Nueces and the Rio Grande. In late April 1846, Mexican and American soldiers clashed near the Rio Grande, resulting in several U.S. casualties. Polk seized on the incident, declaring that American blood has been shed on American soil. He presented the skirmish as an unprovoked attack, and on May 11, 1846, he asked Congress for a formal declaration of war against Mexico. Congress responded swiftly. On May 13, 1846, it officially declared war, marking the start of the Mexican-American War. While the majority of Democrats supported the war, viewing it as an opportunity to expand U.S. territory, many Whigs were skeptical. Some, like then-Congressman Abraham Lincoln, questioned Polk's justification for the war and accused the administration of using the military to grab land from a weaker neighbor. Despite the political division, the war moved forward. Over the next 2 years, American forces pushed deep into Mexican territory, capturing major cities including Mexico City. The war ended with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, through which Mexico ceded about half of its territory to the United States. This land, covering what is now California, Arizona, New Mexico, and other western states, marked a massive expansion of U.S. territory. However, the victory came at a cost. The new territories reopened fierce debates over slavery and helped set the stage for the Civil War. While the Mexican-American War fulfilled Polk's expansionist goals, it also deepened sectional tensions and left a lasting impact on both nations' histories. The seeds of the Mexican-American War were planted long before the first shots were fired. After winning its independence from Spain in 1821, Mexico inherited vast northern territories, including present-day Texas, California, and much of the American Southwest. But these distant lands were sparsely populated and hard to govern. In the early 1820s, Mexico invited American settlers into Texas to help develop the region. Thousands arrived, but many resisted Mexican laws and customs, including the ban on slavery. Tensions mounted, and by 1836, the settlers, alongside Tejanos, Mexican Texans, revolted and declared Texas an independent republic. Though the United States recognized Texas independence, Mexico never did. For nearly a decade, Texas existed as a separate country. When the U.S. finally annexed Texas in 1845, it triggered a diplomatic crisis with Mexico. Polk sent an envoy to negotiate the purchase of California and New Mexico and to settle the border dispute. But Mexican officials refused to meet with him. Polk interpreted this as a diplomatic insult and prepared for war. At the same time, he ordered U.S. troops to the Rio Grande, an act Mexico considered an invasion of its sovereign land. When Mexican forces attacked an American patrol near the Rio Grande in April 1846, Polk seized the moment to galvanize support. The cup of forbearance had been exhausted, he told Congress. On May 13, the United States declared war on Mexico, plunging the two nations into a bloody and controversial conflict. The war was fought on several fronts. U.S. forces captured northern Mexico, battled through California, and eventually launched an ambitious campaign deep into the heart of the country. The most dramatic phase came in 1847, when U.S. troops, led by General Winfield Scott, landed at Veracruz and fought their way to Mexico City. After a series of hard-fought battles, including the siege of Chapultepec Castle, American forces captured the capital in September 1847. This brought the war to an end, and Mexico was forced to negotiate. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, signed in 1848, officially ended the war. In it, Mexico ceded nearly half its territory, over 500,000 square miles, to the United States. In return, the U.S. paid Mexico $15 million and assumed some of its debts. The new land included California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. The war transformed the map of North America and fulfilled Polk's dream of a continental United States. But the cost was immense. Over 13,000 Americans died, many from disease, and Mexican casualties were even higher. The war deepened divisions at home. While many Americans celebrated the victory, critics saw it as an act of aggression driven by slavery and imperial ambition. Future Civil War leaders like Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee gained valuable experience during the campaign, but even Grant later called the war one of the most unjust ever waged by a stronger against a weaker nation. For Mexico, the war was a national tragedy that weakened the country politically and economically for decades. For the United States, it brought immense territorial gains but ignited fierce debates about whether slavery should expand into the new territories. These arguments would soon escalate into the most devastating conflict in American history, the Civil War.